you start 1-5, you're going to be. This is not going to last. You start 0-4, and there's a real good chance that happens with the way the schedule lines up and where your team is. Like Kevin Stefanski needs quick wins. He needs them right out of the gate so he can avoid being the odds-on first coach to be fired, because I think he goes from fourth to first with a little bit of success in the other three situations and no success in your situation quickly.
I mean, what I think is interesting out of this is that this is Vegas telling you they don't believe in Jimmy Haslam. I've been telling you for months, don't believe Jimmy Haslam, because you should never take Jimmy Haslam at his word. But there's way too many people out here that are taking Jimmy Haslam at his word in the suggestion that all these people have their jobs and are able to figure this whole thing out. And I just don't believe it to be true. But this is Vegas telling you in a way that they don't believe it either.
You brought up the right question in the pre-show meeting, which is not do you agree or disagree, but it's how does this happen? And I think how it happens is you start 1-5 or 0-6.
Which is very much on the table with the schedule.
Honestly, even 2-4, if the three coaches in front of you have more success, like 2-4 might end up being the worst start in the NFL given the parity that's in the league right now. And I think that's the thing that's really tough is I think it's really easy to look at the Browns roster and go, well, it's not 2017 bad. Yeah, no one is. Like the Browns, there's like 3 or 4 teams that have fine rosters, but in the era where very few teams have bad rosters, the talent disparity is as good as it's going to get. And it, by the way, it ebbs and flows too. But this is a bad year to have a fine team.
Yeah, I mean, like, which team is overtly trying to just absolutely do nothing? You could maybe throw the Saints in there.
Yeah.
That's about it, though.
Yeah, but you've got a rookie head coach.
Yeah, so he's gonna be trying to. I mean, they all try to win. I'm not suggesting that they don't, but there's other teams that are more obvious about it than others. And so, yeah, you got a rookie head coach. Maybe it goes a little bit different.
I mean, I think. Listen,
maybe Shuck is just awesome.
I don't think the Jets are going to be very good, but I don't know they're going to be awful. Like again, that's a team that you loved the defense last year, and I think they still bring some of those guys back.
Good defense.
I also like Aaron Glenn's just not. He's kind of from that Dan Campbell school of I don't think he's going to tank. So, like, listen, we're talking a lot about the external ecosystem. It's about the Browns. And if you don't have health up front right out of the gate, yeah, that's going to hurt you. Like, the Browns are in a situation where it is conceivable. Like, when we had a couple people earlier call in and say, this is a 7-10, 11
we had a lot
team.
of positive calls earlier
and I don't begrudge you for saying that because I understand if you go, well, we're going back to the systems that we were previously. The defense is healthy again. You got Myles Garrett, a decent running mate in Mason Graham. You actually, this might be the best linebacker room, even minus JOK, that you've had, because there's a lot of depth and a couple of young guys who might be really special. Oh, maybe you get a bounce back from the secondary. The O-line's healthy. You go back to the wide zone format. Quinshawn hits the ground running. Jerry Jeudy's good. Joe Flacco's your star. I understand all that. The problem that I come back to is that's got to hit week 1. If that O-line, the compounding problems that happen, if any one of the pieces around the quarterback position specifically just can't fire on all cylinders right out of the gate, you're going to get in trouble real quick. And this year, this is a quicksand type of year. This is a kind of year where you can get 3 games in, and all of a sudden, the way you felt 3 games ago is completely different because you don't have a Josh Allen or because your defense isn't as crisp as you hope.
Yeah, but they're always going to have a way to pull themselves out of quicksand, even if it's momentarily. And I think they might go to it often, and that's just bringing in a different quarterback. At the moment that it feels like they're starting to slip, they do have it's like an Uno reverse card that they can play in order to try to get something. And maybe that's why they keep 4 quarterbacks at the start of the season, just to be able to hold that and be able to keep going to something new.
See, but yeah,
I'm not saying it's a great plan. I'm just saying, like, if I were them, if I'm sinking and let's say Flacco's 0-4 or something, and it seems like they're going down, well, all right, that's the point where you bring somebody else in, and then you just keep trying it out until it either works or you're just dead in the water.
To me, though, I always feel like we got to pull the ripcord and go to the rookie quarterback. I always felt that's more about the fans than it is a locker room. I think, especially if it's not like the number 1 pick overall, like you had with Baker in 2018. I always feel like that's about trying to keep selling tickets and keep people invested. Because I don't.
The way the locker room spoke this offseason already about Shador, I think they'll have that jolt.
It's tough for me to say. I don't want to dismiss it because I don't know. But if you get 7 weeks into the season and you're 1-6, I think there's going to be some guys in that locker room go, oh, so Joe's going the way of the dodo, and we're going to a 5th-round pick. I don't know how you and I will be excited because it'll just be.
I don't know,
because we're from the side of, well, hell, anything's got to be better than that. I think dudes in the NFL, players are a lot smoother behind the scenes than we realize.
I think the only way we get there, though, where it's a 5th-round pick, is if Shedeur just looks awful in the upcoming couple months.
You mean you're talking about like in practice and stuff
practice,
like
that? In the preseason games, everything that in those moments, if he looks awful, then I think we'll have that reaction. If not, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are clamoring for it if he does look good.
Not all he's going to get a job tomorrow if you fire him is created equal.
No, it definitely isn't.
And it's weird which guys get that pull and which guys don't. Because honestly, I think Mike McDaniel probably would. If Mike McDaniels, let's say they go Mike McDaniel, if they went 8-9 again this year,
yeah,
I think he probably gets fired and probably has to take a year to 2 to rehab the image, but he gets a second job. Steichen's only got 2 years, and he's a 500 coach to this point. So if he gets 3 years,
so I'm interested in the McDaniel discussion for a second, though, because like if you've seen the stuff Asante Samuel Sr. is out here talking about, there's the idea out there in Miami that basically he's doing zero coaching when it comes to like actually figuring out what the players need, what the players want, etc. And he's just kind of letting the whole thing just run amok. Like he's getting tarnished out here in the past month or so in a way that's fascinating.
I hate to be this guy. I thought Asante Samuel Sr. was clown shoes.
Clown shoes?
Yeah, I thought this was just the side.
I like that you added shoes to it.
But you have to. It's a whole nother level of disrespect.
You're not calling him a clown. You're just saying clown shoes.
It's like when I hear LaShawn McCoy say things, and I always thought
his kid needs a job right now, and he's like, no, Miami's not the place.
Yeah, and so no disrespect to clown shoes Samuel there. But no, I didn't love that. But you're right. In overall, he's taken some hits. But like if we go through, who are they? Just run off some of the names on the list.
So let's start with this. So we'll start with Dable because he's got 4-1 odds to be the first coach fired.
He would not get immediately hired as a head coach.
No, and I think more people would look at him now as an OC than anything else. And you would try to
he'd have to
get
rehab
the Josh Allen magic that he had in Buffalo and try to do that. Mike McDaniel's the next.
I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to guess no, he wouldn't be immediately hired somewhere.
And then Shane Steichen after that one.
No, I think he'd have to do the rehab tour. But I think maybe more than the first 2 coaches.
Okay, so we're 0 for 3 to start off. And the Steichen one I think is interesting because I think he's very similar to Stefanski for me in many, many ways. And then we have Stefanski. Jonathan Gannon's not getting another job after Arizona.
No, like he might get the Freddie Kitchens bust down.
Yeah. That sucks for a local kid, the way that it is. But, you're not wrong there.
Well, because some of the stuff that's come out is he just looks weird and robotic as a human being. I'm not saying that's fair, but it's just what it looks like.
Which plays if you're great. Does not play if you're not. Zach Taylor's after that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he gets immediately rehired.
I mean, in the interview with James, I think he called him a boob.
Yes. By the way, fair.
And fair, okay.
Is that better or worse than clown shoes?
I don't know. It's something. It's odd. The NFL world does not. They give Zach Taylor zero credit for anything.
He's modern age McCarthy. He's going to have to take 2 to 3 years,
and then so he also has to build up a whole setup and then lie about the amount of film that he watches to get hired.
Absolutely. The only way he's going to get out of here and get out of the OC lane from there is if he's like, man, I love analytics. You're hired.
I mean, PFF is in Cincinnati, so that does help him anyway.
It's one of the wildest things. McCarthy then gets introduced in Dallas, and during the press conference, he's like, yeah, maybe I lied about the amount of hours that I was watching football.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But here's the thing. If he had said that anywhere else, it would have been a problem. Jerry probably liked that he lied about the analytics.
Just a wild move. Remember when he became open and the conversation around him coming to the Browns got really intense for like a month and a half.
Do remember.
And there was Mike McCarthy wars in this city over whether or not they should or shouldn't hire him. I'm like, he's not a good coach, guys.
If Dorsey had not been fired, I think there's a world where McCarthy would have been a slam dunk hire here. I might say slam dunk. I don't mean it would have been a great hire. I mean, it would have been like open and shut. The way that Pat Shurmur got the job because he had the same agent as Tom Heckert and Mike Holmgren.
Sure.
That kind of dirty business.
Then we have Callahan after that, he's not getting another job.
Yeah, that's so tough. I got to see what the season looks like because we're just grading him off Will Levis and Mason Rudolph.
Well, but we'd have, he's not getting fired mid-season. I don't think that's happening. But after this season, if he gets fired, you get 1 year of a rookie quarterback and then you're out?
Reasonably, what can he do that should be fireable? Like if he goes 7-10 with Cam Ward, he's got to get a third year, right?
If you go 7-10. But Tennessee's weird. They just fire people in general anyway. And they just bring in brand new people all the time.
Low-key awful management.
Awful place. And then there's the one that's obvious that would get the next job. Kyle Shanahan, 16-1, and he gets hired immediately.
All right.
Bring him home.
Is that like a ringer?
Bring him home.
I know. Here's the thing.
I'll create a PowerPoint presentation for you to come home.
The way that I feel about Joe Burrow, which is I do think Joe is a great quarterback. I think people have been a little too lenient. I mean, you look at Kyle is in 8 years in San Francisco, and I know he's had a lot of recent success. He's had as many losing seasons as he has playoff appearances. The problem is when he goes to the playoffs, he does win multiple games every year.
When you've taken Garoppolo and Brock Purdy to the Super Bowl, that's all I need to hear.
Yeah, but at some point, we got to look at his quarterbacks where he picked them. This isn't like Stefanski where, he had nothing to do with Deshaun. He traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. He drafted Trey Lance, and he drafted and then paid Brock Purdy. And he doesn't have a John Elway to boo yet. Like with Mike in Denver, people forget that between John Elway and Jay Cutler, it was Bubby Brister. It was Brian Greasy. It was I think Mike Tomczak had a small run there. Like it was dudes who had no business. I was going to say Tommy Maddox, but that was Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
But he went through a bunch of slap asses, kind of like Kyle has. But he could always fall back on, but look what I did with John Elway. Kyle doesn't have that. Like, yeah, I've elevated the really good.
Yeah, but he took them both to not only a Super Bowl each, he also took them both to multiple NFC title games.
Yeah, but has he won a Super Bowl? I'm playing a little devil's advocate here. So I think Kyle is
that's going to always be the defining part of him at this point. I mean, not only just in Atlanta, or not only here, but obviously in Atlanta, with 28-3, he's not able to get the job done after that big lead in the Super Bowl. Like he can't close it out. That's going to be the recipe on him. But I'll take a guy that at least gets you there.
Ryan on Twitter, by the way, saying 3 more years. That'll be year 9 for Kev.
No, I know. It's the thing that drives me up the wall with all this, and everyone that comes on here and makes excuses for Kev. Like I like Kev, but at some point, I gotta stop calling him Kev, by the way. But at some point, you have to win games and you have to win playoff games. And in the NFL, you just don't keep your job for a million years. Like look at the guys we're talking about. It's not like Daniel hasn't been in Miami for a million years. Steichen hasn't been in Indy for a million years. Jonathan Gannon hasn't been in Arizona for a million years. Canales is on this board at Carolina 9-1. He just got there. Like this happens. Callahan got there last year too.
And people think Canales has them pointed in the right direction.
Right, but like this is how this works. Like you just don't get 12 million years to figure this whole thing out. And with Stefanski, you bring up year 9. Like if we're still doing this in year 9 and he's got one playoff win, I'm going to lose my mind all over again.
All right, this is the definition of a half-baked take. So I'm going to say, it came to me as we were talking.
Mm-hmm.
Because it might come out as an accusation. I don't mean it that way. But I think Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry have done a great job at publicly saying the ownership gives us every chance to succeed, and we're a huge part of our success, yada yada yada. And I have picked up that what they say publicly does not match all the time what they say privately, and specifically to national reporters. And I think that's done in service of their own image.
Sure.
It almost feels like you could paint a case where Jimmy Haslam is being a little contrarian and pushing back against his own narrative about how he runs his own organization based off historical stuff that is accurate, but that Stefanski and Berry might not be discouraging privately to media members in a way in reinforcing their ability to keep their jobs despite mid-ass success.
I mean, all I know is that if the message from the two of them in whatever meetings and whatever they've done with national media members is, well, it's not our fault, we haven't had quarterbacks, guess what? They've all listened. because every person we bring on from a national perspective, and then they all talk to each other clearly because it's getting around with everybody. This includes Aaron Schatz earlier today. They all just, he hasn't had quarterbacks.
Did I big brain it too much there? Did that make sense?
No, I thought it made sense. I think it made sense.
I don't think it's like a nefarious thing, but I think there could be a corollary between.
You said something interesting that I think is right, though, is that like you don't blame them for this.
No,
they're playing the game the right way. This is what I would do the same thing if I were them. I'd be telling everyone from a national media perspective, oh yeah, but look at the quarterbacks we've got and haven't had a chance.
I probably
write whatever story you want.
Because anything that isn't in service of winning day in day out, I think is tough. But I understand it.
Stefanski's got to keep the quarterback whisperer thing going. I don't know how he ever got it to begin with, but he's got to keep that going. And the more people that he has believing in that, the more people that, the next time the job opens up somewhere outside of Cleveland, well, who can get – he got the best out of Jacoby Brissett. Okay, then. Okay.
But I do think, like, I wouldn't personally do it because I personally think anything you do that isn't in service of bettering the organization makes your job harder. But I understand the careerist and I also understand that when I say this about Kevin and Andrew, this is very much how the NFL works.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is for as much of a team sport as it is, it's a very lonely, isolated thing and very cutthroat. Like, you got to look out for you at the end of the day.
And they've managed to do it while seemingly not turning on each other, even though there's a big part of me that does believe that there are cracks in the foundation and that I don't think everything behind the scenes is simpatico. I refuse to believe that you can endure the worst trade in NFL history and the way last year cratered. I refuse to believe that there aren't at least fissures in that foundation of those two guys, or those two guys in DePodesta, or those two guys, DePodesta and Haslam.
Well, and also on that point, like the idea that, so what's always been the reported story around Deshaun Watson? It's been that it was Stefanski and Barry that first came up with the idea. And then they went to Haslam, and Haslam's the one that just kind of approved it. But it was the two of them that came up with the idea and went to Haslam together. Well, clearly one of them knows which one of them called them up first and said, hey, I got the idea.
Yeah.
This is what I want. They know that answer. We'll never find out that answer. I don't think we will. Unless the cracks really do come out.
No, because it all comes out when people get fired.
But what's going to be like 5-10 years from now? It's going to take a while before we might get that answer.
Will be on air reacting to it.
Yeah, we might get that answer years down the line. But like, one of them knows the reality and who put that first wheel in motion.